This morning's feature, Real Estate Today, is brought to you courtesy of Howard Johnson Realty Limited and HJ Property Management Limited. And as we told you before, and as we've posted on social media, today's topic, gated communities in Jamaica. What home buyers need to know. In the program this morning, you'll be getting information on the expectations and realities of living in gated communities in Jamaica. We understand there might be some changes, anticipated legislation changes, and you'll be getting information on that. And Howard will also share with you information on the potential impact that any new legislation might have on homeowners in these communities. What are some of the obligations and even some of the challenges that you might face as you invest in a gated community? And I want to close out this morning by looking at the role of property management in these communities. As usual, my very knowledgeable and man who is in the know and very active in the real estate market in Jamaica, Howard Johnson Jr., is my very special guest. Good morning and welcome, Howard. How are you doing today, bro?
I'm doing well, and good morning to you and all your listeners in all of the places where you describe it. I think you probably left out some of it, but I was only accountable for who you never called.
It would take me all morning to go through the entire list.
I'm sure. So you should have a special section called Greetings from Across the World.
All right. You mean I should do that before Christmas?
Yes, man, for sure.
All right, Howard, good to have you, man, and welcome once again. I think this is our 5th installment, and we're getting very, very good reactions and responses from our listeners to this feature.
I'm happy to hear that.
Now, we're focusing on gated communities in Jamaica, and they're often marketed as secure and exclusive. Now, are they living up to these promises, Howard?
For the most part, yes, I would say they are living up to those expectations. But however, you will appreciate, and it's public knowledge, that you do have a few bad apples. Like anything else, you do a production of 1,000 products, and one might have a label that's falling off or the lid is not properly closed. So for the most part, the gated communities are living up to their expectation, but we do have a few ones that are painting a different picture as to what gated community living should look like, and that's what is the concern of many of our local investors and overseas investors. And that's why we're trying to help them navigate how to select these gated communities. But for the most part, they're doing well.
Yeah, I know there are some issues in some complexes, like non-payment of maintenance fees, some issues sometimes with security and so on. You find those popping up from time to time?
Yes, that is a prominent issue. No one wants to really, pay more than they have to, and sometimes they just ignore and do not prioritize the upkeep of their facilities. And yes, security is a big one. And unfortunately, over the last year or just over a year, we have seen 3 mandatory increases by security guard companies, and that would naturally have an impact on your maintenance fees if you do have these security guards at your complexes. And in addition to that, we do have some infrastructure shortcomings, caused by improper works. And again, it's not always for gated communities. We just had a highway completed, and a part of it, there was a little mishap, and the developers the contractors are making good on it. So sometimes you have a very good building being constructed, but there are some areas that might have some shortcomings, and the developer would have to come and take care of that. So it's a combination of issues that are within, but non-payments of fees and the cost to maintain the common facilities is the priority items that are affecting the investors.
Yeah, you mentioned the increase in security costs and so on, but what I know that took a massive increase was insurance, and that also terribly impacted the maintenance charges that were being asked for at many of the complexes.
You are absolutely correct, and if you recall, as far back as November of last year, when we had a major earthquake, and we have had a series of earthquakes since then. We have had Hurricane Beryl just recently, and a 4.5, I believe, earthquake yesterday, following a 5.2 not too long before that. So the risk that is in Jamaica and actually in the region, there are many of the insurance companies that have pulled away because they cannot afford to keep us insured. So they're just probably less than 3 reinsurers of gated communities and stratas. So that is they're calling the shots, but they now understand the implications on the homeowners that are not able to afford these increases. So they're being a little bit more creative in how they offer their product to the marketplace. But it is a significant increase. In many cases, it has moved from 3.45 probably about 2 years ago to now 0.8 and trending to 1 and 1.2% of the replacement value. So it is a serious cost that has to be looked at, and therefore we can understand that the budgets are going to be impacted by these rising costs.
Big time. And I think one of these mornings, if I might suggest, that's a topic that we might want to look at in a deeper kind of way. Because many persons don't quite understand why these sizable increases in premiums have been charged by these companies. So that's one for the future, Howie.
We'll take that one on for sure.
Yeah, man. Now, I hear talk about new legislation for many of these gated communities in Jamaica. What is the objective of these legislations?
Well, the specific legislation that governs gated community, well, I shouldn't say legislation because it's a work in progress. For some time now, the stratas from 1969, there has been a law in the book entitled Registration of Strata Titles Act that governs strata. But we have many gated communities that are not under that umbrella. And they too face similar challenges of rising costs, non-payments, and non-governance. So for some time now, the authorities have been working on a legislation for the gated community. I think just recently, probably about a week or two ago, we got some updates from the legal officer, a good friend of mine, O'Shane Bassiano, and he mentioned that the work on the now called Registration Shared Communities legislation is far advanced because they have the draft of the bill prepared and consultation with agencies and departments of government, including the Attorney General's chambers. All of that has now been concluded, and they are anticipating that the cabinet submission will be done in short order. So with that said, we are far in advance in getting these legislation similar to the strata legislation in place so that the maladies that are caused by non-payers and persons who are not conforming with the rules and regulation of these shared facilities that they all have an interest in will now come under that umbrella, and then there can be enforcement in getting these people to comply, which will in turn solve some of the issues and increase your property values because you're now compliant.
So many people are listening right now. They are contemplating making an investment, maybe in a gated community. What are some of the potential buyers? What are some of the things that some of these potential buyers should consider when buying into gated communities in Jamaica?
Look at compliance. Look at the demographics of persons that will be considered your neighbors. Probably do a night visit to see what the property is like. Do they have a parking catastrophe, so to speak? Ask questions of your representative, be it your realtor or your attorney. Look at the submissions. If they are strata, look at their submission and see if they're compliant with the annual returns, because that will tell you if they're keeping track of everything that they ought to. So some due diligence is on the purchasers or the investors to ensure that they understand what they're buying into. And I would want to encourage that you look at the governing documents, because whereas you do have the bylaws for stratas, gated communities usually have a homeowners agreement, which is a handshake between themselves to say this is how we're going to regulate. Have a look at that document to see some of the do's and don'ts. And if you see some of the don'ts on paper, but you see them as do's on the ground, then you know that there's a compliance issue and you don't want to buy into that or get some proper explanation as to why that is so. So I think a lot of buyer beware should be placed out there for persons to ensure that they do their homework before investing in a gated community.
Speak to us about the role of property management and the role that property managers play in the success of some of these gated communities.
Well, quickly, we are basically the enforcers. When we don't build these complexes, but we're asked to manage them, and management would entail ensuring that the agreements amongst each other is being fulfilled. So if it is that you need to pay your monthly maintenance, we are the ones that will ensure that you're paying your monthly maintenance. And if not, we take the requisite actions for compliance. We are the ones that are going to ensure that you're not carrying out any breach.
Howard?
Are basically the enforcers, and we are held accountable on behalf of the management committees and the executive committees to be the hands on the ground, hands and feet and ears on the ground, so that we can execute on their behalf. Because many of these committee members, they're working, they're at their job 9 to 5, but a lot of things can happen 9 to 5, and that's why we are called in to ensure that there's compliance 24/7 and that we can hold the homeowners accountable to whatever they agree to.
All right. Well, we've learned a lot. You've given us a lot of information, food for thought, and I'm sure that many of our listeners are taking note. And chances are you'll be hearing from several of them. But before you move on to giving us your contact information, there's a feature within the feature. We call it Going, but not yet gone. What you got for us today?
All right, so we do have a third floor apartment, again in Red Hills, cool hills of Red Hills. It's a cool atmosphere with the rolling hills, and peeping through your bedroom, you see these pictures of the landscape of Jamaica. It's 1,200 square feet of apartment. The unit is up for sale at $38 million. It's a 2-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom. So that's a large space, 2-bedroom, 2.5, 1,200 square feet in Red Hills. We're asking $38 million, and you are able to call Sybil Harvey. That's Sybil Harvey at 876-382-9930. That's 382-9930, Sybil Harvey, and her email address is sybil@hjrealtors.com. And this information can also be seen on our social media handles that I will speak of in a short while.
As a matter of fact, it's a good time to go right to that. Good luck, Sybil, but let's get to those social media handles, Howard.
Yes, for HJ Property Management Limited, you can click on Facebook, Instagram at HJ Manage, and for Howard Johnson Realty Limited at HJ Realtors. Our website, www.hjrealtors.com, or you can call us at 876-620-1457, and our website for property management, hjmanage.co, and we look forward to hearing from everyone.
There's also a telephone number, a landline, I suspect.
Yes, 876-620-1457.
All right. Somebody just sent me a note and says, Richie, you can go ahead and tell the listeners what will be discussed next week. I don't even know if Howard knows about this yet. But
well, we have been working on some of the feedback that we have got, including one that you gave us today. But next week,
yes,
we should be covering a topic about how to own your own home,
yes,
because a lot of young professionals are saying, will I ever own a home? And we're going to be bringing some information as to how to create a path to home ownership in Jamaica.
Sounds like we'll be asking the question, will I ever own a home in Jamaica?
There you go, piece of the rock.
All right.
We're going to give you all the answers next week at 8:05.
All right, thanks so much. Howard Johnson Jr. from Howard Johnson Realty Limited, or Realty Your Reality, and HJ Property Management Limited, your investment or priority. Thanks for sponsoring and for the information you shared. Have a great day, and we catch up soon.
You too. Thank you very much, Richie. Have a good day.
All right. That was Real Estate Today. Listeners, you found that interesting?